Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here in the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland and Genesis Baptist Church in Lenox, Alabama. It is, let's see, October the 16th. Well, thank you for joining us here. We're going to share a bit tonight about why evolution is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the world. Prove me wrong. Call in open mic in just a few minutes. We're on a bunch of channels. We're on Facebook, on Rumble, on Twitter, on our own app, kenhovind.tv, on TikTok and Instagram. Just push a button, something will happen. Sign up for all of them. They're all free. Can't beat that, okay? What on earth are you doing for heaven's sake? What are you doing with your life that's going to matter in 1,000 years? Building a big fancy house? I promise you, it's all going to burn. What are you doing? Anyway, it's up to you. Okay, October 16th, here we go. We have a lot of activities here for people. If you don't have a family, come on down. We'll be your family. So come down for Halloween, which is, we're going to call it Harvest Festival. We have a special day for veterans coming up in November, another Thanksgiving Day. If you want to come down for that. And it's Christmas, you're welcome to join us. We have people come from all over the world. Hey, the Noah's Ark is coming along. Those are pictures yesterday of our Noah's Ark. The guy's been working frantically, trying to get the roof on before rain. Finally, we get some rain. Hopefully this Sunday is what they're thinking. It's really amazing. 1/3 scale model. We're putting small animals in there. Imagine what size an animal would have to be away from its mother. And then go 1/3 of that. That's the size, could be to scale for the ark. God said to Noah, make rooms in the ark, not cages, rooms, okay? If you got cages, now you got to go around feed them. Noah just threw out some food. We don't go hand feed all the cows on the North 40. We just throw out a bale of hay and they find it. Fill the trough with water and they find it, okay? All the new Bible versions say make rooms, 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 rooms. That's what we did, okay? Rooms in the ark, okay? God said to Noah, I've given you every herb bearing seed. This is to Adam, I mean. To all the herbs and seeds and fruit was to be their food, okay? And to every beast of the earth and every fowl of the air. I gave every green herb for meat. Everything was vegetarian before the flood came. Okay? Then, after the flood, God said to Noah, go have a bunch of kids. And they did. Here we are. Okay. And he said, the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth. This is when the animals became afraid of man, after the flood. So, for the whole 2,500 years from the creation up until, all the animals were friendly. You could just throw them all in the ark and they'd find their own little nest or room or whatever and get along just fine. Probably ran around the ark together, okay? Let's see. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Now they can eat meat. This is for the people after the flood, okay? And the flesh, don't eat the blood. Okay. We need to start filling our ark, our rooms in the ark, with pink and blue stuffed animal of each kind. Stuffed animal or plastic animal. We're looking for a 1/3 scale model, okay? So there we go. You can buy all kinds of stuff. If you want to help us out, say, I'll buy something. Contact Bobby, our secretary, extension 1, and say, okay, I'll buy 2 rhinoceros and send them to you. And if they're not pink and blue, that's fine. We're going to spray paint them, okay? It's a joke, okay? Pink and blue, there's only 2. You folks in San Francisco, listen to me. There's only 2, okay? I'd like to get 2 squirrels in there, 2 foxes, 2 armadillos, stuffed or plastic. We're just going to fill these rooms with stuffed animals, okay? We're ready to start dividing it up into little rooms. Let's see, there's the ark as of yesterday. By the way, we got a Jeep. You know what Billy's Jeep is? Is it a 92 or 95? I don't, one of those two. Yeah, okay. Anyway, we're looking for a 4-door. So we'll throw in our Jeep. It's only got, let's see, 139,000 miles and whatever cash to get a 4-door. Have another one. We're also trying to sell the tractor, Case Comfort King. We drove it over there, ran fine, radiator exploded. Not exploded, but rotted apart. It's a 1964. Take any offer for it just to get it out of the yard. You want a good Case 100 horsepower tractor? Please come. Okay, so get our channel and share it with other people. Tell them about it. Subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to have a debate, Joseph, you said some people are cowards to debate. They keep talk, and they won't.
Yeah, it's 25, 30 emails.
25 or 30 emails about how dumb I am and how smart they are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They won't vote for debate.
But won't come for a debate. Why not? I'm stuck at 389. I'd like to get 1,000 before I die. So either you got to hurry up or I'm going to have to live a long time. I'm trying to live a long time. Okay. Go join our 777 club. You can support our ministry. We stay open for free. Visitors come from all over the place. Let's see, help support our ministry. drdino.com is the website. Visitors from all over the world now in 9.5 years. So tonight's Not Whack an Atheist. We did Pope Dan yesterday. No atheists are harmed. No animals were harmed. Let's see, no atheists. Here we go. Right here. But they do, the atheists do holler at me because, we take away their pacifier. See, to them, time, mutation, spontaneous generation, Big Bang, it's all part of science. We pull that pacifier out and they scream like a baby. There's only two choices. Somebody made the world or the world made itself. Except for the folks in Berkeley who think we're not really here. We just think we're here. Okay. Forget them, all right? We talked last night how the nation changed their gods from fountains of living water to cisterns that won't hold water. Some people give up on Christianity, and we covered some of the atheists that have done that. Let's see, if you believe in evolution, if you believe the family tree, you've been brainwashed. The same thing with the stupid geologic column. Same thing with carbon dating. Okay, this guy said, I debated Seth once. I don't think he'll do it again, will he? Contact him. Say, Seth, Ken will take you on it anytime, okay? Said, this made me talk like an idiot. Well, Seth, believing in evolution makes you talk like an idiot. You think you're related to a potato and yet you cook your ancestors and eat them? I don't know about these guys. Anyway, I got a question. Joseph, this is the one, right? From, I don't know who, Grant Phillips. 3 reasons why the ice canopy is impossible. I have taught for years that the Earth had a crystal canopy above the firmament, and that is what blocked out some of the UV light, maybe most of it, prevented the formation of carbon-14, increased air pressure, and made the creatures live a long time. That's why you have dinosaurs that are 80 feet long with nostrils the size of a horse. How could he breathe? Today he couldn't. Back then he could. And they died out after the flood. Same thing, same reason why the human lifespans dropped off. Let's see, get my chart here. Just read Genesis 5 and Genesis 11. Before the flood, people lived to be 900 years old. After the flood, it dropped off to 400, then 200, then 100. Today, hardly anybody makes it to 100. Something was different. I think it was one of the many things was that crystal canopy, a couple-inch thick layer of ice above the atmosphere. So he said, this canopy is impossible because of sublimation. In case you don't know, when something turns from a solid to a liquid, we say it melts. When it turns from a liquid to a gas, there are 3 phases, okay, solid, liquid, gas, and the interchange between them has all got a name. When it goes from a solid straight to a gas, that's called sublimation. Like ice, you don't see it melt, but it'll sublimate. So he says the canopy wouldn't stay up there because it would sublimate. Okay, we'll see about that. It's too thin to compress the Earth's air pressure down to 10 miles, is his complaint. And heating from the sun would cause an imbalance that would fracture the ice canopy immediately after its creation. Now, Grant, I'd like to ask you, did you ridicule the canopy theory and then accept the idea that you came from a rock? Do you believe in evolution? And you believe you're related to a tomato? I mean, is that what you're trying to, is that what you went to instead?
I think he's actually trying to squeeze a flat earth in
Yeah, oh, flat Earth?
there.
He thinks it's flat Earth?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Kansas is flat. Well, here's the problem. How cold is space? Physics behind the temperature of the universe. Hot things move quickly, cold things move slowly. If atoms come to a complete stop, they're called absolute zero. Space is just above that, an average temperature of 0.27 Kelvin. That's minus 455 Fahrenheit. 459.6 or something is this absolute zero. Well, sublimation does not occur at absolute zero. And I think the crystal canopy was in contact with outer space, so there'd be very little or no sublimation. Okay? Because at absolute zero, molecular motion theoretically ceases. You can do some studying on that, okay? Atmospheric pressure at sea level is defined as, well, 14.7 pounds per square inch. But as you go up higher, atmospheric pressure drops. Atmospheric high altitude have low pressure. Just at the top of Mount Everest, that's only 5 miles. It's a low pressure. So having a crystal canopy squeeze the air down increases the pressure at the surface of the Earth. It will increase it some up high altitude also, but a crystal canopy 2 or 3 fingers thick, like the Jews have taught, would not be a problem. See, God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the water from the water. Some people say, well, that's the dirt. Keeps the dirt, continents keep the water from the water. No, no, no. He said the fowl fly above the earth in the open firmament. That would be the air. So the air divided the water. God said there'd be, by the word of God, the heavens were of old, the earth standing out of the water and in the water. So I think the Bible clearly teaches there was water above the atmosphere. A crystal canopy, I believe, a couple fingers thick. That's what the Jews have always taught. So there's some heat sinks when you go up today and the air is spread out, 50 miles or so. It gets really cold up at certain altitudes. I've flown all over the world, not all over, 37 countries. And when you're on the airplane going out there, you have nothing else to do, you see the little television screen, outside temperature, minus 100. It might be over the Sahara Desert and it's still minus 100. Okay. So Earth's atmosphere, let's see, extremely thin layer of air, let's see, atmosphere. So a crystal canopy overhead, about 10 miles up, would increase air pressure. It would not sublimate because it's in contact with outer space, which is really cold. and not a problem increasing the pressure some. It's not like you double the pressure at that altitude. So sorry, you're wrong. Okay. Let's see. What else did he say? Oh, I got another question. Somebody said, Dr. Hovind, my name is Eric. I'm 60 years old. I accepted Christ at age 5. Served in the Air Force. I've been a pastor for 33 years, and I just hit a snag. You are someone for which I have tremendous respect. I believe you'd be the best suited to answer and explain my question. The other day, I was driving and visiting with my mom on the way to her doctor. She asked, how did the Indians get here after the flood? My answer, they migrated to Alaska from Russia and then south to the southern tip of South America. I don't know for any certainty that this is correct. But I then, in my own head, followed the rationale. How did alligators end up in Florida? Why only Florida? Could they migrate that same path as man? Are they reptiles that swam and weren't on the ark and only repopulated the southeast area of North America? No, I believe, reptiles can certainly, alligators can survive in the water, obviously. So maybe they see, just because Noah's in the ark for a year does not mean the whole world was covered for a year. Parts of the world might have only been covered for, a short time. If the crust of the earth was broken up like an eggshell, and it was, and it still is, those plates would be moving around, shifting around with just the tide would cause not only the water to go up and down, would affect the continents moving around while they're still freshly broken. Now they're kind of locked into place, most of them. But so parts of the land might have only been underwater for a couple of weeks or a month. So Noah's in the ark for a year. That doesn't mean the whole world's covered with water for a year. Anyway, so yeah, alligators might have survived and in the ocean or in the water. The whole world was fresh water during the time of the flood. Let's see, anyway, I don't know for certainty this is correct. Let's see, I followed the rationale, alligators. Let's see, maybe there is some other mammal that is better example. Maybe some monkey only found in South America when they came off the ark. How did they wind up where we find them today? Perhaps, please help a struggling Christian. I've not said a word to anyone else. I don't spread about. I preach the gospel. Okay. Well, thank you, Eric. Here's my thoughts on that. I think there's overwhelming evidence that there was an ice age. The ice came all the way down nearly to southern Illinois. Okay. When ice slides across the ground, it piles up rocks in front of it called a terminal moraine. It piles up rocks along the side called a lateral moraine. And it makes, when it melts back, there's isostatic rebound. The continents move up a little bit. Okay. I think there's obvious huge ice caps now at the North and South Pole. So I don't think anybody should argue that there was not an ice age. There was. I think it came during the flood, at the beginning of the flood. Overwhelming evidence, you can see which way the ice was sliding. If the ice got dumped on the North and South Pole rapidly, it would slide out to the side like an avalanche, only moving sideways just because of the vertical pressure pushing out, sliding it out. Okay. And it leaves behind these moraines. We got them all over the Midwest, Illinois, Iowa, Ohio. There's a ridge. You dig down in the ridge and it's a bunch of rocks. That's a terminal moraine covered with dirt. Okay. How did the kangaroos get to Australia? Well, Psalm 104, I believe, teaches the mountains lifted up and the valleys sank down after the flood, at the end of the flood for the last few months, and the water would run off. How fast it tips determines how fast it runs off. Okay. But a whole lot of water was still in these huge ice caps. See, if the ice caps were bigger, that makes the oceans smaller, which makes the continents bigger because the continental shelf is exposed. Northern hemisphere glaciation during the last ice age got about 400 feet thick. Ooh, pretty thick. Okay. Ice ages and their causes. Sheets of ice 3,000 feet thick would take hundreds of years to melt. And when they melt, it would raise the ocean by about 200 feet, maybe. Just guessing. You'd have so many other factors involved, like the isostatic rebound and stuff like that. But there's all over the world, the continents have a continental shelf. If you lowered the oceans 200 feet, England and Scotland and Ireland would be part of France, making the British very upset. They don't want to be part of France. See, if you just lowered the oceans 200 feet, that's what you would get. That would be the beach line. You could walk to Iceland. Okay. There's the beach between lower continental shelf between Russia and Alaska. Just lowering the ocean 200 feet connects them all. Here's the continental shelf around the eastern coast of the United States. There it is around Florida and New Orleans and all that. I think as the ice melted, the Atlantic Ocean would fill in, and then it would spill over between Cuba and Russia and fill in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm sorry, the Gulf of America. Okay, yeah, go Trump. Okay, all right. Pensacola Beach, Mobile Bay, Pensacola Bay, they're about 7 or 8 feet deep. It's a constant battle to keep digging the dirt out so you can park your ships in there, the big ships. Okay. There's a continental shelf around Massachusetts and Connecticut and Rhode Island. It goes way out there. If you lowered the ocean just a few hundred feet, you could walk over to Iceland. You could walk from Europe to Greenland. So probably in the first few hundred years after the flood, people were having kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and they would migrate around. Hey, free land. Where do you want to move? Honey, let's get out of here. Like the West people moving out west a couple hundred years ago. Move out west and grab 40 acres, get away from these cities. Between Vietnam and Australia, that water is just generally 30, 40, 50 feet deep. Certainly lowering the oceans 200 would let the kangaroos get to Australia easily. Okay. Population spread out across the globe, and it became trapped as the continents weren't moving much. It was the ice melting, raising the ocean level, which creates islands. Okay. There you go. Between New Zealand and Australia, the water's real shallow. You could walk around if it just lowered the ocean a few hundred feet. It says in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. Now, it doesn't tell us any more about it than that. Peleg was born about 100 years after the flood. There's Peleg right there on my chart. Peleg. All it says is the earth was divided. Well, I've come up with 4 theories, I think, possible answer to that. One, the languages and nations were divided. That would have been about the same time as the Tower of Babel, when God divided the nations, spread out everybody. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's several answers to this. Some people say the continents moved and split. I don't buy that one much. The continents are still connected. They've always been connected. There's never been a time when the continents were not connected. Sometimes it's underwater. That's all duh, okay? Maybe the water came up from melting ice and divided the high spots into islands and continents. Maybe that happened in the days of Peleg. 100 years after the flood, the water ice should be melting back. Maybe the land was surveyed. They decided, hey, we're getting kind of crowded here. Let's draw some lines. This is my yard. That's your yard. They have most of the countries I'm aware of do that now. Okay, go to the county clerk and ask him where your property boundary is. Right. In the book of Jasher, it says these are the generations of Shem. It says, and the name of the one was Peleg. Okay, in his days the sons of men were divided, and the latter days the earth was divided, and the lives of the sons of men were diminished. Okay, if you read the book of Jubilees, another ancient history book, the children of Noah began to divide the earth among themselves. They divided the earth among themselves. So who cares? Anyway, as the ice melts back, that raises the ocean level. That's why we have a continental shelf. So the continents become smaller as the oceans get larger. But it's very shallow around nearly all the continents. You could walk from Europe to Iceland. As the Atlantic filled in, it would spill backwards and fill in the Mediterranean, and then spill over by Sicily and fill in the Eastern Mediterranean. It's interesting. They find lots of underwater cities. Do you think they built their city down there? Probably not. I bet they built it when first few hundred years, and the water kept coming up. Pretty soon they said, guys, we got to give up on this town. We got to move back further. Okay. Anyway, that's my theory on that. Okay, brother. Open mic.
I have some questions, but nobody's in the studio yet.
Okay. Nobody wants to debate. Come on. I need some more. William, does the Bible talk about the T-Rex? Well, no, the Bible doesn't talk about computers or cars either. The Bible talks about dragons quite a bit, and talks about behemoth. I believe this is probably behemoth, my microphone holder, not this particular one, but a brachiosaurus. Read the book of Job, chapter 40. It says, behold now behemoth. It says he eats grass like an ox. He's got a tail like a cedar tree, and he's the biggest animal God made. That would be this guy. So yes, T-Rex doesn't mention unless that is the dragon. Maybe they just lumped all the ferocious animals into one pile and called them dragons. I don't know. We'll watch the video when we get to heaven. Anyway, thank you, sir. Do evolutionists really believe that living forms we see are a product of errors in copying genetic material and animals and plants being killed off naturally? Sadly, that is true. That is what they believe. Mutations, which nobody's ever seen a good one, but they say trillions and quadrillions of mutations would be necessary to turn an amoeba to a whale. But that's what they believe. And you have to admire their faith. I wish I had faith like that. Well, not like that, but I mean, yeah, they have tremendous faith. But it's a religion. Evolution is nothing but a religion. So yeah, that is what they believe. Let's see. Hey, Hovind, I heard my hubby's buddy, Pat Urish is a good friend of mine. He's one of the trustees of our ministry. UrishIHP.com he's a genius on nutrition. Bill Sardi was my real close friend and one of our trustees for many years in California. Genius on health and nutrition. Pat Urish has studied all his material and memorized most of it. You got a health question? Hey, my joints hurt. Mine did. He said, "Oh, take hyaluronic acid." I said, "What? What is that?" You find is hyaluronic acid, HA they call it. So we buy it at Walmart. They sell hyaluronic acid. All my joint problems went away. So it just called Patrick. Yes, a good friend of mine. Okay. Why did the ice age get so cold? I think the ice was dumped at the North and South Pole because of the crystal canopy collapsing. The canopy was what was cold. And super cold ice is magnetic. We covered that on video number 2 of my series. Get seminar part 2. Get the whole series for $50 if you want. And you can watch it, copy it, and return it. Get your money back. But talk about this. Super cold ice is magnetic. So the magnetic field of the Earth was much stronger at the time of the creation and the flood. And so that super cold ice might have been held up there by the magnetic field partially, or by air pressure like an inflatable building. If there weren't any holes in it, air pressure would hold it up like a balloon. Anyway, when it got shattered, when the fountains of the deep broke open, shot rocks up there, shattered this canopy, it would be sucked in and dumped on the North and South Pole. So you got ice that's nearly 400 below zero coming down in the form of basically rapid snowfall. That's why we have so many animals found frozen, standing up with food still in their mouth, still in their stomach, undigested. Frozen camels, frozen bobcat, lynx, jaguar, mammoth. So I think that happened at the beginning of the flood. And then so when Noah's in the ark, the earth is covered in water, some of it frozen. There'd be ice caps clear down to Kansas City or wherever it came down to. It's very interesting. The ice age, if you look at the ice age, how far did it come down? It came further down into America than it did into Russia. The ice age is centered around the magnetic North Pole, where the magnetic North Pole used to be. It's moving around. I think it has to do with the magnetic field of the Earth drawing that ice in. We'll see when we get to heaven. Okay. So anyway, if you had 400 below zero ice being dumped all over your North and South Pole, that would affect the weather patterns quite a bit. Let's see. Is the laying on of hands and anointing oil of sick still for today? If you want to, that's fine. I don't do that. I'm not against it. I think we should pray for the sick, and I do that quite often. But as far as a miraculous power that putting oil on them is going to do some miraculous, I don't believe that. Okay. I mentioned the other night about the gift of tongues is the easiest one to fake. Why don't they raise the dead? That's what the Bible says. I think those signs ceased, but I don't fight people over that. People ask my opinion, I tell them. Okay. You believe in the rapture? Absolutely. That comes at the end of the tribulation. That's what this chart behind me is all about. That's what the small version of the chart is. My book, What on Earth is About to Happen. I had to give up on the pre-trib rapture idea when I really studied my Bible. We're here for the whole tribulation, all 7 years. So get the book, What on Earth is About to Happen. Get my big chart or the video series, 22 hours where I teach on all this up here someplace. Is that right here? Anyway, you got it up there. Okay. Well, over here. No, backwards there. Whoa, what on earth? Get the Whoa series, okay? That should, yes, I do believe in the rapture, but it comes at the end of the tribulation. I wish it came any day, but it's not. Okay. Have you heard the dark star that causes electromagnetic interference with Earth? No. I know the stars are pretty far away, but the sun certainly can cause electromagnetic interference. I suppose a star could too. I don't know. How come the haters never show up to present their position? I would love to sit on a conversation between you and Graham Hancock. That name rings a bell. Who is Graham Hancock? Does that ring?
I don't know the name.
Huh. Like the guy that had no arms and he applied at the Catholic Church. He said, I need a job. They were advertising, I need a bell ringer. He came up, he said, I'd like to be your bell ringer. They said, you don't have any arms. How are you going to do that? He said, show me the bell, I'll ring it. So they climbed up the tower. He went over there, saw the bell. He was over there, bam, hits it with his head. They said, you got to do this every hour. He said, it's hard to get a job with no arms. I'll take it. So he did it faithfully for a long time. And one day he's running over there to ring the bell, and he slipped and fell down through the hole and went all the way down, middle of the church, bam, killed him. Two priests are walking through, and the first priest said, who is this guy? The other priest said, I don't know, but his face sure rings a bell. My brain just goes off on rabbit trail. Sorry about that. Okay. Crybaby. Yes, sir. You got converted.
Hey, Kent, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Headphones. Okay. Headphones.
How are you doing?
Yes, sir. I am overworked and underpaid, but I never complain about it.
Okay, so you're the usual good.
The usual, yeah.
Hey, Kent, you know the thing that you call the geologic column that you hold up?
Yes, sir.
You know, that's not a real geologic column. That's a cartoon of a geologic column and a geologic time scale.
Right.
Can you hold that? Do you have that
Sure.
handy?
Oh, yeah, right here. Okay, that's straight from a textbook. This is what they teach, that the layers are different age and the top layer is younger. Do you believe the top layer is younger?
Yes. Well, usually, but you can have thrust faulting put older sedimentary rocks over younger sedimentary rocks. But, you know, a proper geologic column is prepared for a specific location, like the Grand Canyon.
I understand that.
So why don't you show an actual geologic as opposed to a cartoon?
I show hundreds of pictures of actual cliff faces, Grand Canyon. I watched my seminar part 4. You're missing the whole point, though. This layer on top, wherever it is, cannot be a different age. The dirt is the same age. Every speck of dirt on this planet is the same age, whether 6,000 or 6 trillion. It doesn't matter. It's the same age. Where was the Holocene dirt hanging out if it's only 10,000 years old?
You're showing for...
Okay, forget the diagram. They're saying...
Well, there's mountain building events that are occurring. There's sea level changes that are happening. There's all sorts of things that are happening in that time period, and mountains are eroding. So the dirt isn't hanging out in a particular location. It's based on where erosion is happening and where deposition is occurring. It changes, you know, throughout time. But why wouldn't you show an actual geologic column for... Go ahead.
Okay, well, hang on. One point at a time. So if a mountain erodes, the dirt that used to be on top now ends up on the bottom, and then it gets to whether isostatic rebound or whatever, you know, different. There's still different things that happen. It changes the age of the dirt by moving it around. Is that what you're trying to say?
It changes the age of the layer. So you have a new layer of dirt, and then you might have a magmatic event where you have a lava layer on top.
Right.
Or something like that.
No
So
question.
it depends on where you are and what location. Go ahead.
And the only one who can determine that is one who believes in millions of years, because if a creationist ever says something about it, they'll never publish that.
So well, it's not a belief, it's a direct measurement. Are you saying that the people are making up those dates, they're making up those measurements, or are those dates actually coming out of laboratories?
I don't know. Well, I do know, but I think we've got
to
the
what's your opinion on it? What's your opinion on that?
I'm about to give it to you. Okay.
Sure.
I think we've gotten to the position in our science world today, especially in America, maybe in other countries, where it's very similar to Islam. You don't dare speak out against the established, you know, Allah is God and Muhammad's a prophet, etc. You don't dare speak out against the millions of years, or you don't get published and you get ostracized and you lose your job. It is a religion. Evolution is a religion in every sense of the word that I know.
Scientists make their names by overturning scientists' findings from the past. That's how they make their name as a scientist. So that doesn't hold up. A scientist would like nothing better than to be able to find evidence against evolution
you believe
and
that?
To overturn the theory.
You really believe that?
Back to that diagram, Kent, you know, that shows the trilobites are that diagram shows that trilobites are the oldest organisms practically, and life was around for 3 billion years before that. So I just have a problem with that diagram. It's a cartoon and not an actual geologic column.
Well,
Can I send you a real geologic column and you can show that on your stream?
Oh, I would be honored. I'd be honored. Now, it would come
Okay.
from a specific, would it be different in a different location? Would the geologic column in
Yes.
Arizona maybe be different than it would be
Oh,
in
yeah.
Illinois? Or so how do we know
Right.
which one's right?
They're all right because they're prepared for a
Oh,
specific location.
okay. So we have
Yeah.
in the
The
Holocene
geologic
era.
column's a representation.
I understand real well. I taught earth science 15 years. So the Holocene era contains some limestone layers. So does the Triassic layer. The Triassic has some limestone layer. How do you know the difference in age between Triassic limestone and Holocene limestone? If they're both limestone. Now we're not talking volcanic rock. They're both limestone.
Yeah, but you do have volcanic rock on either side of those layers to where you can
Sometimes.
find in the Grand Canyon, you have it quite a bit. So
Right.
you have several you can date. And so you have a bracket of dates where that limestone would have formed. And you can further find it through index fossils. And maybe
Right.
a layer 10 miles away actually has a volcanic elements in it that you date. And by the index fossils, you can, come up with a date for trying to find, if that makes sense.
Okay, we're one point at a time here. So there's volcanoes go off and produce lava or basalt or tuff, okay? And that can be carbon dated or radioactive
Ash,
decay
yeah.
rate. Okay. Right. I understand.
Right, not
None
carbon
of those
dated, yeah,
radioactive
but
decay
right.
rates. Okay. But none of those radioactive methods were invented until after World War II with the atomic bomb. And they said, well, what did this do? So they made up this geologic column in 1830, 120 years before that.
Creationists made it up.
ages 120?
Creationists came up with a
Hutton,
column.
you think those guys believe the Bible? Strata Smith and those
Charles
guys?
Lyell certainly believed
Charles
the
Lyell
Charles
was a
Lyell certainly
creationist?
believed the Bible.
Well, we'll talk about that another time.
I would think
But
so.
okay,
Yeah, I'd have to
okay,
go
so
back and check.
yeah. So you're saying the layers of the earth are different ages. Okay, if you'd rather have, I got 500 pictures on my computer. I could boot back up if you want. But yes, I show the Grand Canyon pictures. I've been there. I've been to
That's good.
many places. But the point is, moving the dirt from one place to another does not change the age of the dirt. So what you're really dating is the age it was laid down, not the age of the dirt itself.
True.
You're dating an event,
That's true.
not the material. But yet you want to use the material
Well,
to date the
you are
layers.
dating radioactive material when you have it available. So yeah, you are dating some of the material.
And I go through in great detail.
Someone is saying he wasn't a creationist. I'd have to look at that.
Yeah, he was not.
We can talk about that some other time.
Yeah, but the dating the material even with radioactive dating, that has some real serious problems. And I've showed them many, many times. How do you know the initial content? How do you know the decay rate's been the same? How do you know there's been no contamination? And why do they get so many dates that fall outside where they should be? If I took a piece of rock from the Grand Canyon that everybody says this is from the Cretaceous period, I take it into a laboratory. Here I have some Cretaceous rock, lava. Would you please date it?
Yeah.
They would probably have to date it 5 or 6 times until they get the right number.
No.
Well, how do they know the right number? It's based on the index fossils.
Well,
The fossils.
for one thing, they
are
can
dated by
take
the
multiple
layers and
samples. They can take multiple samples
Right.
and get the same dates. And most
You think
dates
so?
aren't most dates aren't out of whack. They fit right in with what is expected. And it's all dependent on the location. But
Well, that's all that
you
gets
know,
published. Yeah, because it's a religion.
we're
That's
we're,
carefully
we're
protected.
nitpicking the geologic column. Really, creationism just has genealogy from the Bible, which is basically turning a Hebrew numerology into literal time. And
I agree.
I mean, okay. I mean, do you see that genealogy is numerology and not? I mean, that's how you guys add 6,000, though, right?
Absolutely right. I believe the Bible is mathematically correct, physically, scientifically correct. Joseph had a comment. What was that, Joseph?
Well, no, there's actually just a question
Yeah.
for creation strategy.
Can you hear his question over there?
Sure.
I'll repeat. Okay.
Yeah, I think I can hear it,
Uh,
Joseph. Go ahead.
How did the layers and the walls of the canyons
Oh,
form? How did the layers
well, the
form around
layers
Grand
were laid
Junction?
down by successive sea level rise and sea level fall. That's why you get sandstone followed by shale followed by limestone, depending on the sea level at that particular location. So it just happens to be walls because the river carved through the walls, and
Right,
it's a wall now. But it was laid
right.
down, as an
So
extensive
you think that
layer. Whether
the sediment,
even if you believe in yeah, go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry.
the sedimentary layers were laid down by water. Could it all have been in 1 year flood with just the tide going up and down, high tidal pumping? That would make the water rush in and out. It would come up, be wet, go down. Uh, or is that not
You
possible in
have
your
you have to be able to explain the fact that there's aeolian sand dune deposits there as well, and
Mhm.
creationists have never been able to fully explain limestone layers that are separated by other sedimentary rock layers because of the way limestone doesn't form the way, as you know, but for your audience, limestone doesn't form the way sandstone, siltstone forms.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
through precipitation through the water column of calcareous organisms.
Well, there are several
And it's,
articles and even
yeah.
yeah, there's several articles and several even books on that very topic on ICR.org. They've got a couple of geologists there, Andrew Schnelling and some other guys who've studied this, and they have answered it very thoroughly. But again, the answer won't be published, just like an anti-Muhammad book won't be published in Iraq. Uh, you guys have
Well, I
won the
mean,
battle
again,
on
we've
base
had this
gold.
discussion about, whether you believe there's a global cabal against creationism,
No,
which
I think there's a
indicates that there's a
satanic,
big conspiracy of scientists.
right. No, I think there's a war with Satan versus God, and Satan deceives people, and you're on his side right now. You're trying to deceive people into believing in evolution, and so that's up to you. But yeah, I think there's certainly
Well,
a conspiracy. Is there?
I don't believe in Satan or God. So, I mean, it's
You
not
will one
something
day.
that's a problem for me.
Yeah, you will one day. But in
Okay.
North
Well,
Korea,
thank you, Kent.
what
On
is there
that
a
note,
conspiracy? All right, okay. Is there a conspiracy in North Korea to prevent people from learning about capitalism and private property ownership? Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
North Korea is a dictatorship where they control what's taught
Right.
in schools and what's taught in.
And
But
evolution's not.
we're talking about science in China. We're talking about science in Iran. We're talking about science in America, all
Right.
of Europe, all these places where they've come to the same conclusion about, evolution and geologic processes. It's not one political system.
That's why they need
But
to call
thank you.
me. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Tell them all to call me. I'll debate them all. The layers of the earth cannot be different ages. You can't tell when it was laid down by the fossils it contains unless you already believe in evolution. This animal evolved first, fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal. So if you find a fish or a bird in a layer, you're going to give it an age based upon the index fossils because you've already decided evolution is true. Sorry. Joseph, I asked a guy to call in and share his testimony. He got saved watching my videos. He didn't call in yet?
No, sir, I haven't started.
He said, Brother Hovind, you changed my life. I got saved. I know I'm an evangelist. And I probably had 4 calls today like that. I tell them, call into the show. Okay, any more questions or comments? We can get rid of those.
One last question here.
How much of the Bible is provable? To whose standards, I guess? A large percent is provable. There's historical, how do you prove anything, Historical evidence that would say, yeah, that was really a Jewish nation, and they really migrated out of Egypt. There's all kinds of historical records you could prove many parts of the Bible. Some of it I take on faith, that there's angels. I've never seen one, okay? Bible says there is, I believe it. But see, I'm not asking for my religion to be taught in the public schools. The atheists and evolutionists are demanding that their religion only be taught in the public schools. They've definitely won the battle of getting a monopoly in our schools. But we haven't lost yet on our side. I'm going to keep converting your people out of your religion into believing common sense. Okay? That's it?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. Man, we went a long time tonight. Sorry about that. If you have questions, call. I take calls all day long. 855 Big Dino, extension 3. Every day, 5 or 6 people say, is this really Kent Hovind? Is this AI? Well, I think if you have a degree from a university where you believe in evolution, you have artificial intelligence. Okay. But no, this is really me. Yeah. Be glad to talk with you. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Same thing. Tell the atheists, call in. What happened to him? Joseph, it dried up. I read some of their sites, when they talk about me, oh, don't debate Kent Hovind, it's a waste of time, he never changes. That's because truth doesn't change. When I was a kid, 2 + 2 was 4. Guess what? It still is. Whoa. Guess what? 6,000 years ago, God made the world. That's the truth. Guess what? It's still true. And you're going to be judged by that God one day. If you don't know him, want to get to know him, give me a call. I'll explain it to you over the phone, how you can become a child of God in 5 minutes. It'd be great. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.